So from the first lesson, go ahead and look at your sketches and find some gems and distill them down to simple little thumbnails. Notice the proportion of the thumbnails in regards to the proportion of the surfaces you're working on, and then decide which ones you want to utilize in patterns. So I've made my choices, and now I have a piece of sketchbook paper, and I have 4 quadrants, and I'm going to be exploring 4 different kinds of patterns. It's endless possibilities. So on the left side, I am finishing up a brick pattern, which is the structural lines that will hold my pattern. So now I'm going to decide which one of these pomegranates to put into the brick pattern. And then I decide to have it be a portrait view instead of a landscape view. And now I'm just inserting the image into each area of the brick pattern. So we're just moving through quickly. These are just sketches, right? So you don't have to worry about the circles being perfect or the lines being perfect in your sketches. You can save that energy for the final piece if you end up deciding to use what you found in these sketches. So moving through just to see how everything looks when it is together, and then you can remove the structural lines to reveal just the pattern without those lines. All right, so now we're going to move on to another pattern idea. And so I've already started with some slightly arched lines moving in a diagonal, and this creates just a little bit more dynamicism in your composition. So I'm looking through and I've decided to use this, and I'm trying to figure out which orientation I'd like those little pomegranates to sit, and I've decided to have them going sideways, like they're sort of sliding across these arches. And now I'm determining how I want them to be positioned within the arches. And so first I draw one to see how large, and then I decide to do another version of a brick pattern. And so alternating my rectangular shapes to create a brick along these arches, and doing a little bit of measuring with my hands. You can always measure with a ruler. But since these are just sketches, we're just bringing the lines through and alternating. And then it's time to place the repeating pattern. So you can see I started with the thumbnails, which are shown on the left, and then I move the thumbnails into practice compositions and do some erasing to see what it looks like, and then just moving on. So sketching doesn't have to take a long time. You can just move through ideas and see what's up. So now this is a radial symmetry, and we actually do a whole lesson on radial symmetry later on. But since we're here and I want to show you a variety, maybe you try out some radial symmetry here as well. And so I'm just using another version of the pomegranate in this circular pattern and allowing for the crown part of the pomegranate to face out. And then I decide to do another layer with the crown part facing in for a little bit of variation. So with your patterns that you make, you can alternate. You can have a couple different versions of one symbol to create a pattern. You can have 2 different symbols intermingling to create a pattern. The choice is yours. So now I'm adding that center area. So now I'm moving into an organic pattern. So there are no structural lines in this little area of my sketchbook, and I'm allowing for this more loose and expressive gestural pomegranate to be a little bit different every time that I draw it, and just allow it to move organically and fluidly through the space. And then I have the little seeds popping out, and that helps fill the space. So with an organic pattern, you just allow things to naturally unfold, really go with the flow. Just feel out your space and see, what proportions, what kind of spacing you like, and then you just go from there. And it's really nice and meditative to work with patterns because you're just repeating, and so you can create some alchemy. Practicing with materials and imagery and with the repetition allows for that to begin to permeate into your being and deepen your connection with the creative flow. And so we'll use 2 of these in 2 different lessons for the pattern, and you'll see how they translate to final studies. Enjoy.